Week 2, you know what that funky music means, and it's time yet again for our Big Ten confidence picks. I'm Steve Deace alongside Aaron McIntyre. Aaron, how did we do last week?
So I was, after James Franklin scored that last needless touchdown to cover and take the over, I thought I was going to have negative points this week because I really needed the bonus bet to come through to keep me close. But I didn't do the difference between us this week. You beat me, but it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. We'll start by reviewing your picks. You had a perfect week, other than the bonus pick of Michigan, East Carolina over 52.
Yeah, that over never even had a chance.
I had him on a teaser, and that not even the teaser hit. Thanks for that. So yeah, perfect week in the picks department for you. For me, not so much. I missed on Nebraska over Minnesota. Boy, I thought I was going to get off to a bang that Thursday night.
You should have won that.
Probably should have won that.
Yep.
Purdue over Fresno State. I was just thinking, you know what? It's a West Coast team coming to the Eastern time zone, I think. Is Indiana Eastern? I can't remember. I can never remember with Indiana. I just thought maybe there'd be enough lag there to kind of put me over the top. And the Northwestern, as I said yesterday on Bigger 10, I just thought if there was one game that Northwestern could get up for, it would be that one. Should have won the Western Virginia Penn State under as well, but some garbage time.
Yeah, what
scores.
happened there is the West Virginia coach called the timeout that pissed James Franklin off, so he went ahead and tacked on another touchdown. That's what happened there.
No, I think he had money on the game.
Or he had money on the
I think that's what
total.
happened. So the total for this week. So we both had to subtract 7 since we missed on our bonus bets there. You only lead 59-50, despite the fact that I had 4 wrong, and you only had 1 wrong. So, you know, you're up over me, you know, by a hefty margin, but not as much as I was thinking. Let's go in.
By the way, Indiana is Central Time, so it was a 2-hour difference for the West Coast team.
2 hours, yeah,
Yep.
still. All right, so your picks this week, Steve.
All right, my 14-point game, Penn State over the Fighting Joe Bidens there of the Delaware Blue Hens. My 13-point game, Ohio State and over Youngstown State in the Jim Tressel Bowl. Remember, Jim Tressel came from Youngstown State to Ohio State. My 12-point game is Michigan over UNLV. This would have been a much better college basketball game in the early 90s. Think Fab Five versus Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon. I don't think there'll be much drama on Saturday. My 11-point game is Michigan State over the Richmond Spiders. Another one that would be a much better basketball game. My 10-point game is Maryland over Charlotte.
Fighting Biff Pogies.
Biff, the Fighting Biff Pogies. Biff will have something to say, win or lose. I promise you that. Biff will have something to say. All right, my 9-point game, and this is I'm never going to put more points on Indiana the rest of the year. In fact, it is possible that
this is the only one that you're going to
yes,
pick
and
them.
that the combined amount of points I will put on Indiana the rest of this year will be 9. But they're playing Indiana State, and Larry Bird's not suiting up. Number 8, I'm going to go with Minnesota over Eastern Michigan. I got to tell you, I'm very leery of this game, though.
Yep, me too.
The Eastern Michigan coach has a history of winning these kinds of games. Minnesota completely stole one.
They have a history of struggling in September against non-power.
Remember, they lost to Bowling Green at home a couple of years ago. Yeah, so I'm leery here. My 7-point game, I'm going to go with Virginia Tech over Purdue. There were some things defensively I did not like from Purdue at all. And if you look at that game statistically, frankly, Fresno State shouldn't have come down to the end. I mean, they were the better football team in the game. My 6-point game, I'm going to go with Kansas over Illinois. I think it's a very difficult matchup for the Illini on the road Friday night. Sellout crowd. They don't have those a lot in Lawrence. National TV spotlight. They're debuting the Black Hawk uniforms. Jalen Daniels is making his season debut. He's the preseason all Big 12 quarterback. So people looked at Kansas last week against Southeast Missouri State and said, that wasn't that impressive. Jalen Daniels, he didn't play. They held him back for this game. And so I think Illinois is running into a bit of a buzzsaw there. For my 5-point game, I'm going Colorado over Nebraska. To me, this is a Nebraska wins or Colorado wins by 10 or more. Washington State, I'm going with the upset here over Wisconsin. I think they match up even better now, and they beat this team a year ago. The new Luke Fickell offense, they see this on the Palouse every day in practice. They face this style of offense every week in the Pac-12. I think they're coming home with some momentum after an impressive opening win at Colorado State. My 3-point game, and I know this seems weird, but the bonus pick's a point spread pick. I'm going to go with Iowa over Iowa State because I think the winner of this game will be both defenses will not blink in this game and will force, this is going to be a 17-14 game, 2017 game, field goal game. And neither defense will refuse to give in. And they're going to force one of the quarterbacks to blink and make a mistake. And if there's one thing I know about Cade McNamara, even to a fault, he will refuse to take the bait and make a mistake. It will sometimes mean he won't try to make a play that is there. But he will not be the quarterback that makes that mistake. And I think Iowa gets out of there with a win, but by only putting 3 points on it, I'm not all that confident. For 2 points, I'm going to go with Rutgers over Temple. I think a lot of what we saw from Rutgers last week
was the opponent.
Was the opponent. And my 1 point game, as a general rule, I always take Power 5 teams that are underdogs to group of 5 teams, and usually with confidence, actually. Not so much here, okay? But I have to believe, being told all week you are an underdog at home to UTEP has some motivating factor. And my bonus point spread pick, now that the spread is fully outside of a field goal, I'm going to take Iowa State +4. You always take a team with a good defense getting points at home. Like I said, I think this is a 17-14, 2017 game. And so therefore, since you're giving me an extra point outside of that field goal margin, I will take it with the Cyclones.
Well said. Mine. I also have Penn State over Delaware in the 14 spot. They should be able to roll with ease, maybe play some backups as well. Ohio State over Youngstown State. If there's going to be a get-right game for Kyle McCord in this offense, I have to think it happens this week. You know, you're at home. You've got an opponent you should be able to punch around more than you did with Indiana, which you should have been able to with Indiana, but we'll talk about that later. Number 12, I'm actually even more confident in Indiana over Indiana State than you are. It's under the lights. You know, if there's going to be an opportunity for Indiana to grab a win, you have to think it's in this game. So I think they'll be prepared and ready to go. And again, their defense was pretty impressive against Ohio State. Michigan over UNLV. I don't know. I mean, Michigan's going to win, obviously. I don't know what kind of Michigan, if we're going to get the run up the score Michigan, or if we're going to get whatever that was last week, Michigan. I don't know what that was. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask you about this. Are you guys the victims in Valiant now? Is that a new thing? With the free Harbaugh that J.J. McCarthy was wearing? Like, what was that? Holding up the 4 before that ridiculous formation. Like,
that's rallying. That's rallying
this?
And showing solidarity with your head coach, brother.
Oh, okay. So
that's championship football program.
As
a matter of fact.
Yeah. In any other circumstance, wouldn't the truth be enough of that? I mean, that was just over the top melodrama. That was ridiculous.
Free Harbaugh, man.
Free Harbaugh. Against a self-imposed,
he's been imprisoned enough.
A self-imposed.
Dude, he had to eat sandwiches and watch on Peacock last week.
Suspension.
Enough is enough. There's no end to the two-tiered justice system in this country.
That was ridiculous. Number 10, I've got Michigan State over Richmond. Although I probably shouldn't put 10 points on Michigan State, but they did it. They did a decent job last week against Central Michigan. Number 9, I've got Maryland over Charlotte. Charlotte's just. I love Biff Poggi. I got acquainted with him over the offseason a little bit, just hearing various interviews. I like him, but he's got a pretty difficult roster to deal with there. Number 8, I've got Virginia Tech over Purdue. I just think this is going to be a difficult place for Purdue to go on the road and try to etch a win. I just don't see what their path is. Virginia Tech is not that great, but I think they're better than Purdue. Again, I probably should have put this one lower. I'm not super confident in this one, but Minnesota over Eastern Michigan for the reasons we just talked about. Minnesota has a tendency to struggle in some of these non-conference games out the gate. They, by the hair of the chinny-chin-chins, beat Nebraska, as you know, last week, so I'm not super confident in this. I am more confident in Iowa over Iowa State. A quiet confidence, you might say. Iowa over Iowa State. I just think Iowa is the better team overall, top to bottom. Iowa State's defense is definitely legit, but I just think at the end of the day, you have a competent quarterback now with Iowa. At some point, they're going to break through. I don't know. I would even expect them to cover the spread, but I'm not super confident in that. So I think Iowa will be able to handle them. Hopefully we won't see any breakdowns like we did last year. I mean, Iowa last year was just just a cavalcade of errors that we just don't see in this game from them. So I think they'll fix that this year. Nebraska over Colorado. I think preseason Nebraska was the favorite. They opened up
like 7 points.
They opened up this week as like a 5-point underdog. That was quickly bet down to 3. Colorado's now favored by 3. I like what Colorado did that last week. Much respect, but I think there was a huge overreaction, and I think Nebraska has a pretty good shot this week. Number 4, I've got Kansas over Illinois. I think this could be a snake pit. I don't think Kansas is going to run up and down all over them, but I think this is going to be a snake pit for Illinois going in there. Washington State over Wisconsin. Probably should have had this even higher. Wisconsin, I was thinking, hey, I was going to give them an A grade this week, and maybe they deserve that up there with Penn State's performance. But they really struggled in the first half, and it wasn't until late till they pulled away. And it looked like an old Wisconsin number. I think Cade McNamara had more passing yards than Tanner Mordecai.
Mordecai like 189.
Yeah. So I think Washington State should be able to handle Wisconsin. And again, that's a West Coast game for Wisconsin. Typically a pretty difficult thing with the time zone differences. I've got UTEP over Northwestern in my 2 spot. Northwestern looked helpless. And hook 'em Miners. That's all I have to say. And number 1, Rutgers over Temple. There's something about this game that gives me the heebie-jeebies. Not super confident in this at all. Rutgers is favored by 9 points. I don't know if they'll cover that, but I'm not super confident, obviously, with the 1 slot there. And Illinois, Kansas under 58.
I think call there going under.
Yeah.
The Kansas game. Okay.
I think Kansas might win by 2 scores, but I don't see them running up and down the field in this game. I still have a little bit more confidence in Illinois' defense than what we saw last week, and I think that'll keep them in it for like 3 quarters. But I'm going under 58 for my bonus pick.
All right, that'll do it for this week's picks. Good luck to both of us, especially me. We'll see you next week right here on Bigger Ten.